You're live.
Good evening. Just wanted to make sure I was on here well in advance. Good. Give everybody a few chances to be able to come online.
Hey everyone.
Right there. Mandy Brenham scheduled a video to begin in 16 minutes. Let's see.
Let's turn that off.
Whoa.
You're live.
Good evening. You can hear it in my ears. Just checking on everybody, making sure. So we're going to leave that open just in case there is comments that I see come rolling in, because
It should show up in your comments.
that should show up in my comments. Okay. I will go up to my comments. Yes.
See, it's delayed.
Yeah, it's very delayed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's supposed to be.
Okay, but here
But
is.
you do have people coming on.
Yes, I know. That's what I wanted to see. Excellent. Hey, everybody. Just getting a few kinks worked out with my.
Hello everyone. Call me if you need me.
Thank you. Thank you. Got a little bit of a pretty special Q&A set up for you guys tonight. That's definitely for sure. Denise again. Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Tom, you might really like tonight because we're going to go over some numbers. And I really wanted everybody to feel... I wanted everybody, Tom, you asked a good question the other day. You said, how is everybody finding cash flow? And knowing that tonight we had discussed some Q&A of calculations for upcoming Q&A for how to calculate ROI for various different stuff. And I thought, you know what? I am going to start right back at the beginning. I am going to show you guys how we find a property on Realtor in real time, how I extrapolate the data, how I put it into, and you'll have to bear with me a little bit because I'm certainly looking at you in the camera now, but when I navigate this stuff and when I navigate the pro formas, then there's going to be a little bit of lost eye contact. So bear with me a little bit, but you guys have a little bit of a insight to inside Mandy's mind. What I'm looking at, what I'm looking for, what attracts me to some of these potential deals, what I like when I see, what I'm seeing when I look at these things, and then how does that translate onto my pro formas to be able to offer pitches to my partners. So we're still ahead of time. It's only 6:58, and I respect everybody's time. Hey, Lair Bear is on board. What do we have here? Let's see here. I don't know. I'm not really able to. Okay. So let's get right into this. So I'm going to go back to basics. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story when I started out. When I started out in real estate, I had not a lot of experience and I had more time. Now, I know that as you transition, time is definitely a factor that you want to make sure is that you are calculating your ROI kind of stuff. Hey, Cindy, we're going to figure this out for you. Yes, for sure. So when I started out, I had more time than I did knowledge. And so I needed to be able to turn that time and the knowledge into dollars and into an ROI. And one of the first ways that I was able to do it was to look at realtor.ca, which is a free tool. Everybody has access to it. And, we call it a little bit of real estate investor porn. But that's what I had access to. So here we are. I put in London, Ontario. So actually, I'm even going to go back a little bit for you, okay? So again, apologize that I'm not necessarily looking at you all the time, but I want you to really follow along as to where I'm going and how to navigate my search. Okay, so here on realtor.ca, you can go residential which typically would take you single family homes and duplexes, and maybe we'll do one of those properties as well. Or we can go into commercial, okay? And we can go into commercial and we can filter down in commercial. There we are there for multifamily. Is that too much? I want to do this. I want you guys to have my screen a little bit bigger. There, okay? So we're here in this drop-down window as in property type, and we're putting in multifamily, okay? And here, up here in the city, you can tell I have London, Ontario already pre-populated, so we'll do that here. And then we'll search. I don't put a max price. I don't put a minimum price. For commercial, I'm really just searching the multifamilies just for right now, okay? So let's see what pops up in London, Ontario. So within realtor.ca right now, they definitely put this red line around the city of London. And if you didn't want to search within that boundary, you can unclick it right here. And I just want to kind of go a little bit larger than the city just to kind of allow me a little bit of comparison for what's inside the city and what's outside of the city, okay? And so, you know, like for me, I'd be looking at this and saying, you know, where is St. Mary's? Never heard of it. It's not on REIN's top 10 cities. I don't know it, but I might very nicely go and Google map it to be able to say, well, how far away from London, Ontario is it? How far away from Stratford is this little town of St. Mary's? How far away is it? And so you start to be able to feel, is it a town that still would have some fundamental factors, but maybe it's not on the top 10 city list. And I say that because keep in mind that when I started to invest in this little town called Midland, nobody knew where Midland was. And although I lived here, my entire family had lived here, generations had lived here, I'd traveled here and been here all of my life, there was not a lot of people, and there's still not a lot of people that necessarily know where Midland is. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have strong fundamental factors for me to be able to invest here, okay? And it's done me very well. So if you start to know your city, then it should be okay. So what do we want to look at here? So you guys are seeing, I don't know, you can't really see my, hey, there's a lot, there we are there. I'm sorry, my eyes are like focused all over the screen. My producer has me all over the place right now. So I'm looking up here at St. Mary's, okay? So it's got the number 2 on it, Kitchener, there we are there. It's got a little 2 on it, and so I'm gonna click on this place right up here, and it's you know, none of those things really jump my eye, so I'm probably just gonna pass over them. I know that's kind of bad, but I'm just kind of showing you guys how I look. There's something that says Woodstock Street in Tavistock, 619,000. I go, meh, not really of my interest. Let's come down here to Woodstock. What's this? Okay, watch this. I'm gonna like be creating some good competition for myself. So here is does it change? Oh, Lair Bear. Okay, just a minute, guys. This is where I come in, and I know that I can go. I have to stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna share my screen on a different screen here. Okay. So this is the one that I pulled up. Let's see if it allows me there. Okay. So what am I seeing about this property? What are some of the things that you might be seeing about this property? Okay. So I see 1 set of stairs, 2 front doors. I like that. I'm seeing definitely a main floor and some upper bedrooms. Okay. I'm definitely seeing some upper bedrooms. The other thing I'm seeing is a steel roof. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely seeing 2 driveways, or what I would see is 2 driveways. I would definitely tell you that what I could tell from the outside, this potentially looks like a rental. Somebody has decorated for Halloween. Somebody might be moving out on the other side. Maybe the owner has done some renovations, okay? So those are the things that I see when I look at this property, 134 Main Street in Woodstock. Okay. So now I'm reading it here, and it says side-by-side duplex on 1 deed. Okay, so that's side-by-side duplexes on 1 deed. Merge the semi-detached homes under previous owner. Possibility for severance has not been investigated. Both units are 2 + 1 bed, 1 bath. Steel roof, concrete driveways, newer high efficiencies furnace. Both units have existing long-term tenants, so we're okay. Okay. Built in 1930. What else do we find out? So I'm just kind of scrolling down the information to be able to see what else the real estate agent may have listed. Okay. Nothing crazy on here. I'm not somebody that really cares about lot coverage unless this was a corner lot. I do like that it's zoned duplex or sorry, I do not know Woodstock inside and out, but R2, when he says it's a side-by-side duplex, I think, yep, that could make sense. So I'm quite happy with the potential of the zoning. Rental equipment, there it is there. So you're looking, all it says is water heater. So you can kind of tell that potentially from this listing, it's not indicating that there's any rental furnaces or rental air conditioners. So that's something good to be able to see. And forced air heating. So you know what, we're not talking baseboard heaters. We're not sure if there's 2 hydrometers or not, but this is the information that I would have. So you guys are getting the exact information that I would have. So I don't have any information from this gentleman from this listing whatsoever. So even better, I'm going to give this gentleman a call. And you're going to get an idea of what it is I say to him. Okay? Would help if I push the button. Edward is his name. We'll see if Edward answers at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. Gosh, it's real estate investors. Here we are doing work at any time of the day, but Edward might not be. Hey, Ed, good evening. My name is Mandy Brenham, and I apologize and thank you both at the same time to be able to take my call Sunday evening. I am a full-time real estate investor looking at one of your properties at 134 Main Street, and just wondered if you might have some information high level for me right now. Yeah, just property taxes. Yep. Okay. So the full listing would have the full income, full expenses. Okay. Okay. I'm sure I'm okay with that. Yep. What about the income from the two units? Really what I'm looking for is just the income and the taxes is all I need. Got it. Okay. I will text you my email and look forward to that information. Thank you so much, Ed. Have a good night. Take care. Bye. Should I have told him that there was a ton of people on that call with him? You know what? It is what it is. So look at that, you guys. I kind of went a little red. So he's going to email me that information. He would not give that to me pretty high level. We could certainly get into, I could certainly share some of the questions that I asked with him, but not what I wanted to be able to do with you tonight. So here we are. This is a great property that we might be able to look at. And then we, we want to, what's going on here? I don't know. I can't tell. Let's see. Okay. Too many clicks away, guys. Okay. So we've got this property, $315,000. it is semi-detached 2+1 in Woodstock. I'm going to switch my screens and we're going to go over to the analyzer for you to be able to see how I analyze my properties. And a property such as this that really, other than the listing, I don't have any other information for. Okay, so again, bear with me. Share my screen. Chrome. Boom. Okay. Okay. So I hope you can kind of see this. This is my analyzer. Okay. And we are going to analyze that exact property that we just saw. And that exact property we're going to call 134 Main Street, Woodstock. Okay. So in here it says list price, and the list price for that property was $315,900. Now, if I'm a good negotiator and I'm looking for appropriate rents, then I'm going to indicate that I could get that for $310,000. It's a, $6,000 under asking price. I'm not saying that I'm going to rip off the seller. I think that could be, it sounds like it's priced quite right. So gross monthly rents. I don't have that right now. I do need to text that gentleman to be able to get that information. So within here, but I'm going to kind of take a gander. So a couple places that I could look to be able to have gotten this information would be search on Kijiji. I could call local property managers and ask them what kind of investment or what kind of rental rates they're getting. And then I could also ask some local investors to say, hey, I know you have some rental properties in Woodstock. What kind of rental rates are you getting? But so we don't have that right now. We don't know if the tenants pay their own hydro. We don't know who pays the gas. We don't know any of that stuff. But from the listing that we saw, it says merged semi-detached houses. So I'm going to anticipate, and this is, potentially, just an assumption that I'm making, and not saying that, that this stuff isn't going to be backed up with actual information, but I'm going to assume if they were actually semi-detached houses, that there are separate heating systems for them, and they would actually have separate hydro meters and potentially gas meters on the exterior. So that being said, I'm anticipating that the tenants are each paying their own utilities. So I'm also going to assume, because it says in the listing that the both units have existing long-term tenants, that we're taking over those tenants, and the potential of lift will be when and if they move out. But I'm going to say that they're each only paying, I'll say $1,000 a month for rent. So my rent is going to be $2,000 a month. Vacancy rate, I know it's always such a catch. So there is a vacancy rate, of course, in Woodstock. We can look on CMHC to be able to find that. Again, we can ask local property managers how often their units are empty, or we can, or in a case like this, you say, but these are long-term tenants, which would actually mean for this specific property that the vacancy rate is quite low. And if the vacancy rate is quite low, then, I think 5% is quite safe. And that's what I have in there right now, is a 5% vacancy. Property taxes. You can kind of tell that my pro forma has been done up for another property, and so I'm just changing these numbers as we go. So property taxes, I don't know Woodstock. I have not gotten any information back from that realtor phone call. So I will just assume that it's going to be $250 a month. Okay. And trust me, assuming makes an ass of me and, the person that I'm looking at. Insurance, I typically, with my insurance company on a duplex, I'm quite comfortable putting $100 a month, which would be a $1,200 policy. I may have some policies with various discounts that might be more of the $1,000, and I definitely might have some that are $1,300, $1,400. But this is the first time we've analyzed this property, and so nobody's married to it right now, and I just want you to kind of get a feel for how we run our numbers. Specifics and like exact details will certainly come later, okay? And so we're putting $100 in here. Utilities, again, I am anticipating that the tenants are paying their own utilities, but I will say that there is only one water meter, and so I always like to cover the water, and so I'll put $100 in there. Snow and grass. Again, if we position these units correctly and the tenants actually feel like they have their own home, then they will be responsible. I will, have a separate contract, but that they will be responsible for their own snow and grass. So other expenses, I'm going to keep here at 0. Property management and maintenance. I know that says 10%. That is combined. So that would, in my numbers, be a 5% property management fee and a 5% maintenance fee. If you'd like, and that is a policy that I have. If I oversee the management with a joint venture partner, I offer to manage at 5%. And so that is why I am quite comfortable putting only a 5% property management fee, because it is something that I do, okay? Let's see. Hey, Jer. Julia. Met Julia over the weekend. Let me just see here. Hey, Mandy, Damien. For the last 2 years, I've had a great legal rental unit that has nice cash flow. Should I look into refinancing now to try and start to get my initial investment back, or wait for a few more years? Damien, great question. Let's see. Let me go through this, and then I will be happy to be able to touch on that, because you might very much want to realize that by taking money out of your current property to be able to buy your next asset makes a lot of sense, okay? So other expenses, we're fine over here. Renovation cost. Again, we're kind of anticipating when the listing says long-term tenants that there's really no initial, renovation cost, okay? And that's not right or wrong. That's just the way that it is, okay? So we're actually, but let's just say we've got a new front door that we want to be able to put in, and they can do that with the tenants. And I'm just kind of, thinking there's usually a few things that need to be upgraded or done. And in this one, what I really like is the potential that it could be severed again. So I'm going to put in there, off the top of my head, a $20,000 renovation fee. And that's just going to be for lipstick type stuff to keep the property efficient for heat and hydro uses, plus $15,000 to be able to do potentially a land survey, severance, zoning, bylaws, drawings, permits, things like that. And so that's what that $20,000 is going to cover. So the next number in my calculations here is a home inspection. I put $500. That's pretty standard-ish around there. Could be 6, could be 7. Do you feel, I want you to feel how I'm not getting stuck on the exact dollar. If it's $600, it's $600. If it's $400, it's $400. Please don't get caught up in that. Same with the, same with your down payment and your legal fees. Hey, Mandy, if your down payment is financed, I know Larry would be able to tell me that, and he'd be able to say how I could share that. But it says if your down payments are financed, meaning using the HELOC, where do you add that additional expense? Okay, I don't right now. Making that super clear to you guys, because there's a lot of you that can get caught up in that. You're like, well, I have to finance my down payment, and so I have to finance my down payment. And just hold that thought. I want you to run the numbers for this property, So hold that thought, okay? So over here, so now I'm going to put this back as a big screen so you guys can see it again. And I have, so what's my after repair value? So now I have potentially spent $15,000, $18,000 plus, to be able to, I put 20, remember I put 20 for my renovations. What's my potential ARV on this? Well, we could go back into realtor.ca. It's unfortunate that I can't change screens quickly, and say what is the lowest price single family home in Woodstock, because technically now I would have 2 single family homes, but I don't want to overestimate. I don't want to, you know, go crazy, but let's just say that the ARV has now gone up to 175 for each unit, which would put the value of this up to 350. Okay. So 350 for my ARV, 20% down payment. And my interest rate, the only thing I'm going to change on my interest rate right now, because I do know that there are various different products out there with various different mortgage brokers or bank mortgage specialists direct from an A lender. 3.2 is a good price. And I am leaving this at 3%, 30% amortization. Okay. So let me just jump right into this here. Boom. Okay. There you are. So other than this not being the picture, this is a picture of what the property would look like in the analyzer. Okay. So you can still see that. Yes, you can. Excellent. So we have up here our purchase price of 310. You can see that. I don't think I can go. Can I go any bigger? No, it doesn't really go any bigger. Okay, so purchase price of 310. You can see that I put my $2,000 a month cash flow right up here at the top. My 5% vacancy automatically creates $100 reduction out of the rent. So I'm down to $1,900 to carry my expenses. Property taxes, there they are, $250. Insurance, utilities, maintenance and management brings my total net operating income or expenses, total net operating expenses to $650. So we take the $1,900 minus the $650 gives me $1,250 a month. Okay, after all the expenses are paid from the income, and you're like, okay, I get it. Yep. So then monthly mortgage payment is $1,211. That's calculated pretty much on its own down here. Now this is based on an after repair value. My pro forma automatically says, well, if you bought it for 310, put in some work, we're going to, here we go. Okay. There. So see how we bought it for 310 and I put it up to an ARV value of 350 over here. I could change that and leave it at 310 and say to my partners on this, we're going to buy a great $310,000 duplex. We are going to invest $20,000 to sever it. Potentially after we sever it, we could refinance it, but we don't have to, okay? And then you will see in my pro forma that the ARV value right here is still 310,000. So these calculations now do not assume any refinances. Okay. This says 3.5%. I don't know why, but I do believe that the numbers are based on 3.2 within my calculations. Hey guys, here's all the nerdy number junkies like me. So cash flow after refinance, which we weren't refinancing now, you can kind of see how we're playing around with this, is $177 a month. You know, your question about Cindy, you asked, you know, do you include your HELOC in there? Well, you know, you would have to know that you're borrowing. Look at this over here, right here, guys. See this? Total cash required. Oh, look at that. My calculations aren't even correct on here. Look at that. My analyzer is not working very well. So I'm going to put in there $10,000. Okay. Total cash required for this property is $98,000. Okay. So you've got your down payment of $68,000. We talked about the $20,000 to potentially be able to sever it. Or split it down the middle, create again 2 separate semi-detached houses instead of 1 attached duplex. And the carrying costs for this, and maybe that's extreme, and it definitely could be. We're looking at legal fees, land transfer fees to create a bank account with a reserve fund in it. And so, $10,000 is what it would cost to be able to get this property up and running. So, so there you have it. You need $98,000. So, Cindy, if you were to borrow $100,000 from your HELOC, then you would have to potentially factor in 4% interest, if that's what it is. I'm just using that as a round number. 4% interest on 100,000 divided by interest-only payments. You would put that in there, and you would hope that it would cover the 177. You could hope that it would cover the 177. Here's why I discuss with you HELOC fees, is because not everybody's using a HELOC. Not everybody is using a HELOC. And let's just even say that you are using a HELOC. Maybe, like, if you're not using a HELOC, maybe you've got an inheritance from your family. Maybe you have cash sitting in a bank account. Maybe you've got a settlement from an accident, a settlement from work. Maybe you were laid off. There's all kinds of different reasons that you could have cash. And so I do not include it in my pro formas, because when I joint venture partner with somebody, I actually, although I want to know where their down payment is coming from, definitely for anti-money laundering issues, I do not, I repeat, I do not pay HELOC fees out of the cash flow of these properties. So, and here's a bit of a reasoning on that. Larry and I have a mortgage on this house that we're in, but we also have four other properties, because we've used the money from this house to pay for those 4 other properties. So should those properties be paying my mortgage? Well, they are, in a roundabout way. And when we are so connected to, well, I need this property to pay this amount of my HELOC, you're kind of getting very stuck. And this is a very fluid game. Now, I'm speaking from a high visionary kind of look at this, and I understand. What I'm saying to you is I understand. But I'm also sharing with you those feelings of don't get stuck on a property trying to cover the HELOC, because not everybody has a HELOC. Here's another thing. Why don't you have a mortgage? Maybe you did phenomenal. Maybe you've been mortgage free for 10 years. Well, guess what? It's okay to have a mortgage. Nobody's lifestyle is necessarily going to go under because they have this mortgage. Here's the other thing. We're using the term HELOC in our head because we're saying HELOC because we don't pay for a HELOC unless we use it. Am I correct? If it just sits there, there's no interest, and you're like, oh, that makes me feel so warm and cozy that I don't have to pay for my HELOC until I use it. And if I never use it and never buy that rental property, then it's not going to cost me a thing, right? Then there's the other side of it that I can say to you kind of nicely, to be able to say, I challenge you to put a fixed rate mortgage. And you're like, well, why would I do that? Because now I'm going to have the cash sitting in a bank account with a full fixed mortgage, and I'm going to be paying for that mortgage from day one. And I said, yeah, you are. And you know what? That mortgage payment and the cash sitting in your bank account, it's going to light a bit of a fire under you to be like, this isn't just a warm and fuzzy kind of HELOC feeling. This is like I need to put that money to work because that money needs to now pay for my mortgage. And that's what Larry and I did. We found a way to be able to say, if we're going to refinance this property, okay, so Damien, there's your question. If we're going to refinance this property to increase the mortgage, which technically decreases the cash flow to be able to go and buy another asset, you're building your portfolio at the same time. So one property is going to kind of come down in cash flow, increase in leverage for the purpose of buying another property. And so that's what I'm saying about your own primary house, is you're going to borrow off of your own primary to be able to go and buy another property, okay? And so after a while, the properties are just all paying for themselves. So super nicely, once you refinance all these properties, you can pay down your own primary house, or you can sit back and say, because I own 4 assets, easily those 4 assets are more than paying my mortgage / HELOC on my primary res. We're all good with cash flow. Okay, but it sometimes doesn't happen after the first one, and this is a good example here on this pro forma. Okay, so a bit of my story: when Larry and I started, we found an asset similar to this one, and it only cash flowed at $50 a month. I think it was $46, but I'll round up for my numbers at $50 a month. So it cash flowed at $50 a month, and we said, should we refinance it to create that $50 a month? And my coach was like, no, that goes against what we advise. And there was many people that were like, no, don't refinance for under $100 cash flow. But I'm like, but there's equity in there that we just created really quickly, and we're in this growth mode. And so my mentor, Andrew Brennan, was like, yeah, of course you should refinance. And I was like, duh. He made me feel like of course you should, knowing that you're using that capital to be able to go create a cash flowing asset, or an asset that's going to increase in value. You know, you're doing a lift on an asset that's going to have an increase in value. You're going to create an asset, not going to pay for a vacation, not going to buy a new boat. You are buying a cash producing asset. And so our first property, we refinanced that property, and we moved on, and we used those funds to buy property number 2. And we did another really fast, quite renovation. It was about 6 months that we did the second renovation. And at the end, we were able to do another refinance for a smaller amount of money. So the first one we refinanced out $50,000. The second one we refinanced out only $25,000. But the second one cash flowed at $450. So now property number 1 and property number 2 together created $500 a month. Okay, so are you hearing me on this? Even Cindy, your question about the heat covering the HELOC. What we're saying is, just because it doesn't cover the HELOC doesn't mean it's a bad investment. Keep in mind, our first property would not have covered a HELOC cost. But because we were able to recycle it so quickly onto the next property, now we had $500 between the two of them. But the story doesn't end there. We took that second refinance off of the second property, and we actually found a vendor take-back mortgage on a turnkey duplex for $250,000. So we got a vendor take back for $25,000. We used our $25,000, and we bought this third asset. And so now we had 3 assets. Okay, that third asset cash flowed at $1,000 a month. $1,000. So we had $1,000, $450, and $50. So combined now we had a total cash flow of $1,500. Okay, now we had all of our capital invested at that time. So I would have said we had our entire $50,000 invested. And did $1,500 cover our $50,000 capital invested? It absolutely would have. But if we were to have stopped and not bought property number 1, or not refinanced property number 1, because we were like, well, that's not going to cover our HELOC with a $50 a month cash flow, then we never would have gotten property number 2, and we never would have gotten property number 3 to make this little collaboration of properties a brilliant move. So sometimes when we silo our properties so much that we're actually missing the genius of what they all could look like together. Okay, so back to this asset here. So again, this is just one that I found off of realtor.ca, and I'm putting it into my analyzer. Okay, let's see here. Oh, there we are. There, I got Cindy's message up there. How do I do this? There we are there. Okay. Hey, Michelle. So, what's next? What's next? So down payment here, you guys can kind of see my little, I'll click on it here. That's my down payment, my initial renovations, my closing costs. Total year 1 ROI. How did we get the ROI? How do you calculate ROI? Return on investments, okay? So quite clearly right here, we have cash flow. Cash flow is pretty easy to calculate. You're gonna have this $177 times 12, okay? There's your number right there. I don't know how there's cents, but oh, I know. because we've rounded our mortgage payment, so there's a little bit of rounding going on. But roughly, that is how much cash flow we have. What's the mortgage pay down? Well, that is a calculation within our pro forma up here of all of our payments, and then all of those payments show what the interest portion is and what the principal portion is. So $411, second month is $412, goes towards principal. So when we go into our pro forma and we say, how much in a year will have been paid down off the principal, it's really just the addition of all of that principal pay down to come in here. Okay, so that you can find that on mortgage calculation chart, and which gives you an amortization schedule. That is found on an amortization schedule. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Passive appreciation. Okay, so that is the amount that the city itself or the neighborhood within that city is going up, that you perceive is going to be going up over the duration of time. Now, this was in here at 4%, but if we wanted to, we could change Woodstock to 3%. I'm sure there's some phenomenal people, investors in my world that would say, Mandy, 4 is quite conservative in Woodstock, but I just want to show you the difference, okay? So we just put in here, passive, well, it doesn't change it in here, there, we put it in at 3%, and it's $9,000 a year in passive appreciation. So I'll call this my 3 ways to win, because again, we're not factoring into these calculations a massive lift in renovations, right? So year 1 total ROI is $16,000. So our mortgage is $248,000. Our original capital right here is $98,000. It matches this right here. So our return on investment is a calculation that takes these 3 factors: cash flow, mortgage pay down, and passive appreciation, divided by, right here, divided by the total capital invested, which is $98,000, to give you on this asset a 16% ROI. Okay, 16.75% ROI. And, you know, I have a standard that says if I'm going to offer something to a JV, it's, you know, it has to be, I don't get out of bed for less than 30%. So this right here, the way that the pro forma has been done up, is certainly not an asset that would be for me to be able to bring to a joint venture partner. But let's go back and see about things. So what if we did this $20,000 severance, and the realtor comes back and tells us that, well, if you actually severed it, each one of those ones is now going to be worth $200,000. Just using some numbers. I'm not speculating. This is just for my own mind to be able to say, is this a property I want to put much more time into? Okay. So we're now at $400,000 because we're anticipating we have 2 units separate. Okay. And we are anticipating in that it only took us $20,000 to do this. And they are as is. So here we are now, we come to the pro forma. Whoa, look at the difference down here, guys. So nothing has changed, except we've anticipated in here that instead of it being a side-by-side semi-detached duplex, we took $20,000 to be able to sever it. Again, that was surveys, permits, some drawings, definitely hiring a land planner, somebody to be able to help us get that done. And now we have a 64% ROI because we are returning to our cash. So you go, where's the difference, Mandy? Well, but there's lots of different factors that go on in here. So you notice we've changed one number. We've changed the after repair value, that we had bought it for $310, and we're now anticipating that once it's 2 separate buildings, that each building is going to be worth $200,000. Okay, some assumptions in here, but I want you to see the change one number can make. Okay, So now we have here that our after repair value here, line right here in the middle, you can kind of see my mouse rolling around on it, is $400,000. Okay, we finance at 80% loan to value, which means 20% just kind of sits there. And we have a new mortgage of $320,000. There we are right there, new mortgage of $320,000. After that, we pay off the original mortgage from when we bought it. Again, you can kind of see my mouse rolling around up here above the house. We bought it for $310,000, and when we bought it, we put a mortgage on it. It was for $248,000. Okay, again, 80% of purchase price. So we have an after repair value mortgage now of $320,000, and we have an original mortgage that we pay off because you can only have one mortgage on the house at one time. So we had so the difference between these two is $72,000. So you're gonna, my partner would go to the lawyer. We would arrange strategically the mortgage for them to get that up to the new appraised value. Potentially, you're gonna have two mortgages now at $200,000 in this situation because, of course, we were severing that property, and so now, but the numbers are all the same. And now the lawyer pretty much gives my partner back a check for $72,000. So they'd originally had $98,000 invested. We'll return capital of $72,000 for an ROI of 64%. Okay, but what other number are we really not liking on this pro forma? And maybe you can't see it because of how small the screen is. But what I really don't like on this property, or that we would have to have a major conversation on, is this $134 negative cash flow a month. So this is kind of anticipating that if we severed the property, we had this money invested, we did a refinance now, we've brought the value up to the property, but now it doesn't cash flow. That doesn't really make us overly too happy. I'm not necessarily cool with that. So we could factor a few things into this. Maybe, so I want you to see how fluently I'm playing with things. I'm just playing. There's almost like a best case scenario, an okay scenario, a worst case scenario, like a definitely not going to do this deal scenario, don't want to spend any more of my time looking into this property. But if I can leave you with a couple questions, and these are the type of questions that I want you to see where you can ask further questions to be able to get more details. Okay. So we're going to go back into the analyzer, and I'm going to say, so when I'm in my pro forma, I do not like negative cash flow, like not a deal that I'm going to do. So I'm going to go into the input, and I'm going to potentially pretend that I'm only going to refinance it up to $380,000. So I can play with it. So even if the bank come back and says, yep, these two houses together now are going to make $400,000, we can choose to only refinance up to a max. Now you can choose to refinance up to a max, or like, so let's just say the value came in at 400 and we say, no, we only want to refinance up to 380,000. You'll see here that we still have negative cash flow. Okay, so we're still not good. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to go 360,000. Okay, pro forma. There we are. Whew, good. We got 4% cash flow. Now we've got that $4 a month cash flow. You can see it right here in this number here, $4 a month cash flow. And that was me playing around to be able to say, what amount of money would we have to mortgage this at 3.2% interest rate, at 80% loan to value, for us to be able to get positive cash flow. But now let's just keep in mind, if our appraisals come in at 400 and we choose to only refinance at 360, we're technically leaving $40,000 on the table of equity. And in our real estate investing world, that's not necessarily something that I suggest that we often do. And so what I would say very nicely is, let's refinance up to the max of the 400. And then you're like, oh, but that's negative cash flow, Mandy. I said, I know, but we're actually getting an extra 80% of that 40,000. So what's 80% of 40,000? $332,000. $32,000 we'd be leaving on the table if we didn't refinance out to the max. You're like, but it doesn't cash flow. Well, so then I would say to you, well, let's get our calculator out here on our phone because it's our favorite tool. Okay, we're here on our phone, favorite tool. I think I had it out last week as well. Okay, there we are there. And I want to say that so it's negative $134 cash flow. That's what it was, $134. But we got $32,000 extra dollars out of a refinance. So I'm asking you to do a calculation to figure out how many months worth of cash flow should we leave in the bank account from the original refinance to cover that negative cash flow. Okay, so let's just say that you say, I want to leave 5 years worth of negative cash flow to like create a zero cash flow in this bank account. Okay, so we're going to take $134 times 12 times 5 years is that. Okay, now that's just to create no cash flow, zero, right? So what if you were to say, so keeping in mind that we would be refinancing out $32,000, and to break us even, all we need to do is put $8,000 back in our joint venture account to be able to cover it now, so it's a neutral cash flow, neutral property. Okay, but we agree that we want to leave $15,000 in the bank account. And we're like, awesome. So $15,000, okay, is what we're going to leave in. But we only owe $8,040 to come up with, we only need $8,040 to come up with neutral cash flow. So we're actually going to leave $6,960 extra in there, divided by 12 months, divided by 5. We are actually creating $116 a month cash flow in there by refinancing out all the money now. Okay, I know that's super high level. I see Nick Lecrae on here, and I know Nick would get it because he's a mortgage specialist. He talks numbers. We talk crazy numbers sometimes, but I want you to see that that you can create the cash flow in your properties. And I'm not saying create like, let's make it fake. Let's, show numbers that aren't real. Okay. So just to tell you, let's go back here and change one more number. We're going to change 2 more numbers. Renovations, total renovation costs. So again, what I'm wanting you to feel is that these numbers can be moved around and situations can kind of change. So let's just say that the renovation costs, one of the tenants are leaving. They're leaving. Maybe they've had N4s all this way, and we are finally able to take them to the landlord tenant board and have them out. Maybe they say, that's it. We don't like the new owners. We don't like your new policies. We don't like these N1s, these regular rental increases. We're gone. Okay. And now we have to renovate their unit because we've assumed they're long-term tenants. There's going to be some work. So up here in total renovation costs, we have the cost to be able to sever, and then we're going to have the cost for one unit. And you're saying, well, how do you estimate that, Mandy? Let's just estimate it, guys. I'm going to put in there $30,000. So $30,000 on top of my 20 is going to be $50,000. Okay. But now I'm able to get $1,500 plus utilities on this newly renovated side. And on the other side, it's still going to be the $1,000. So I'm now going to be at $2,500 cash flow. Sorry, $2,500 a month rental income. Okay, look at the pro forma. Boom. Look at that. Okay, cash flow now goes up to 402. Oh, just a minute though. So we have to go back in here and we're going to say, well, forget that. We're not doing that whole cash flow calculation change, Mandy. We are leaving it as is. So if we had one tenant leave, we did a renovation in one side, we severed the property to create 2, we are now at a 39% ROI with $300 a month cash flow. this is a great property. This has lots of potential. But if over the year the other tenant leaves, now you've got $80,000 worth of renovations to it, but the value now has gone up to $210,000 a unit instead of $200,000. So now you're going to be at $420,000 ARV. And your cash flow is now $1,500 a unit. I'm sorry, your rental income is going to be $1,500 a unit because you've renovated both sides. And so now you're down here and look at these. Look at this now. Okay. So now you are 38% ROI, $650 a month cash flow sitting right here. Passive appreciation. Let's just say you say, you know what, Mandy, Woodstock is on fire. London's on fire. I want to put I'm quite comfortable. CMHC, I'm comfortable. I am going to put this at 4%. Like, I'm not telling you to be, I'm not at all suggesting a speculation in appreciation. I'm also not asking you to speculate on an interest rate. I'm telling you to get some hard facts from the people that you surround yourself with to be able to find out what the current rates are that you can put into your spreadsheets. So fellow investors will tell you, London will tell you. I mean, I think Chatham Kent last year was going up, 8-12%. Well, that I don't suggest that you necessarily put on your pro forma, but you're okay to be able to say, I'm comfortable over the next 5 years that it's going to go up 4%, or forget it, put 3%. It really doesn't change much, okay? But don't speculate on interest rate. There's no need to speculate because you're going to get a mortgage locked in for the next 5 years. So we're not speculating what the mortgage is going to be for the next 5 years because we have a hard fact number on that. Property taxes kind of can't be changed much. It might change a little bit if we sever the two properties and now we have two instead of one. There might be a little bit of a change in this. Insurance, and again, insurance might change a little bit. Maybe they were $1,000 combined, so $1,200 a year, and then it went to $800 per year per side. So this might go up to $125. Utilities, maybe you're always going to be paying for water and sewer. So again, am I getting the point across that there is lots of room for change and movement in these numbers, but not on a speculative side, but on a side that allows you to feel that there is some room for you to do some movement on it. Okay? Wow. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Okay. What else? Does anybody have any more financial questions? Well, I have my pro forma up and running to be able to ask me while they're here. Okay. Let me know. Plunk in a comment. I'm happy to be able to help you. So I was at a phenomenal event this past weekend. It was called Females in Real Estate Fire with Tahani in Toronto. There was women there from British Columbia, like women that I actually connected with. Liza from BC that has RAIN, Women Real Estate Investing Network. So it's really cool to be able to see the country come together in one place. And what I realize is that there's a lot of new investors out there, and I thank you. I thank you for showing the curiosity to be able to be here. I thank you for not being intimidated to come out and learn about something that you've not learned about. Do you know that the average person, even after they've gone to post-secondary school, or we'll assume that you've gone to post-secondary school, because I didn't finish post-secondary, just saying, but that's it. People don't do a lot of learning after post-secondary. They perceive that once they're there, they're done. They might do some, some course upgrades or some recertifications and stuff. But welcome to the real estate industry. And, whether it be Archangel, whether it be the Wealth Hacker event with Iwin and Erwin, whether it be Tahani's, Females in Real Estate, there is Pierre Paul Turgeon's large multifamily course. There's just course after course after course. You're always kind of learning. And what I took away from these ladies that I was surrounded by is that we need to go back to basics. Okay, let's go back to basics. I had a bit of a coaching session with a young guy from Windsor today, and this is all we did was drill down these numbers. I want the numbers to click, 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 click. I want you to feel that if you changed after repair value, what else does that change? I want you to see the correlation between an after repair value and cash flow, an after repair value and ARV. I want you to see the flow of capital. So, so performance like this are super important. Let's see here. If you are buying, renovating, and doing a refi, do you get a 1-year mortgage, break it, and then refi? Great question. And unfortunately, depending on which browser I'm in, I don't necessarily see who's asking me that, so I apologize, but thank you for the question. So I deal with, so here's my conversation, and I pull out my phone to be able to show you guys that I want you to feel my conversation. So, so the question is, do you get a 1-year mortgage term when you're doing a BRRRR, the buy, renovate, refinance, rent, and repeat? Do you get a 1-year mortgage term? Here's the conversation with my mortgage specialist. Hey, mortgage specialist, it's Mandy. Yes, I have a new joint venture partner that we're looking to be able to get a qualification for a mortgage for. Yes. The type of property that we're bringing to you is this really undervalued property. We are going to take this single family home and we're going to convert it to a duplex. So we're going to take 6 months to be able to do those renovations. We are going to convert this property and we're going to come back to you once we have brought it up to current market value, once we have tenanted it with current market rents and new tenants in both units, 2 units. We're going to be looking for a refinance in 6 months. Okay, not end of conversation, but that's how I lead the way with her, because, or her or him, okay? Because I want them to understand my strategy. And I'm not a mortgage broker, so I definitely rely on my power team for these. And I say I rely on my power team because frickin' retarded rules continue to change. This lender used to be able to do this, and then this lender was like, nope, can't do that anymore. And then this lender would do this, and then the lender went, nope, we can't do that anymore. Typically, I do not do a 1-year term. I've never done an open mortgage. I've done a HELOC once on a property, and bless my partner's soul, we all agreed to it. The situation changed with a couple more assets that got bought and a few little changes, and they were not able to refinance that HELOC. I've never done a HELOC again on a rental property with the purpose of a very quick refinance. I want to make that disclaimer. So I do not do 1-year mortgages for refinancing properties. It just doesn't make sense to me. Sorry, I could do this so you guys could see me a little bit better. It doesn't make sense for me to do a 1-year term on my properties. Okay, I typically, a term that I use a lot is it's a blended rate mortgage. So if our first mortgage is $200,000 and then our new mortgage is going to be $300,000, the bank will just kind of blend the rate for our existing amount plus the new amount. Maybe this was at 3.2%. and interest rates went down to 3%. So they kind of blend these two rates for these amounts, and then that's what they give you as your rate. So we never actually break a mortgage and move on. But I know with some brokers, you will go and you will finance with TD in whatever kind of product that they have. One of my latest ones, TD will allow a refinance within that 5-year term. Another product was that you would be breaking the mortgage and going and refinancing it with a different lender afterwards. So it's a great question for what is best for the lender landscaping at the time that you're going to do it. Question 2, here, I'll put it up here, see if it's there. Question 2, for the HELOC payment, just to confirm, the strategy is to have it covered by your overall portfolio and cash flow. Yes, I love it. Yes, that's so great. Instead of siloing each asset, think in terms that the asset is going to pay for the next one, which will pay for the next one, which will pay for the next one. And gosh, aren't you going to look genius in 18 months when you've got 3 properties now that more than cover what you have left outstanding on the HELOC. But if you get stuck on paying the HELOC for the first property because you don't want to refinance it too much because you're doing the BRRRR method and you want to keep your cash flow down, you're going to get stuck on trying to cover that HELOC when really all you need to do is take it all out, the maximum that you can, and move it on to the next one and move it on to the next one. Now, again, I am saying this with, let's make sure we're buying proper properties, okay? So I'm telling you, I'm not buying anything single family here. I am not, Mandy Brenham, buying anything single family, to the point that I have 1 single family, two semi-detached single families left in my three single families left in my portfolio. They do all cover themselves. They are the lowest cash flowing producing assets that I have in my portfolio, but that's just fine because I have beautiful families that live in there and I don't need to disrupt them right now. So I am always looking at how do I get at least 2+ incomes out of a property legally. Are you hearing me here? I know there's people out there that are doing this illegally, and I'm telling you, go and open the darn permits. And don't have a chance that your basement is going to be shut down. Don't put 3 mailboxes on the front just because you felt like putting a loft upstairs. I don't know. But when I see a property that was just bought as a single family and now it's got 3 mailboxes on it, I just want to make sure that none of that is going to be compromised or jeopardized by the city coming along and closing down that property. Okay. So Cindy, I think you really got it there. Absolutely. Question number 3. I love it. Love, love, love it. This is what happens. These are the flow that you get. Okay. Question 3, how do we build an amazing pro forma property analyzer like mine? Well, you know what? I created this from looking at another property. You might be able to see it's very similar to one of the ones that my coaching group uses. They used to call it the 4 ways to win. I do not. I kind of just took it and played around with the numbers a little bit and did that. So yes, I have thought about offering this out. Rain Canada has a great one. Keyspire has a great one. Yeah, we certainly could talk about that though. Look at that. See, 44% ROI. Like, you know, like these properties are just great. So anybody else have any questions? Cindy, I love it. I love where your mind is at. And I really want you to know that that was us. That was us getting stuck on, but it, because Larry's, his criteria for our first duplex, okay? And this was like way, way, way back. And it was like, he had to be able to drive by it. It could not cost us any money, like zero, like could not affect our lifestyle. It had to be turnkey because he didn't want to do any work. He didn't have any time to do any work. He was working overtime at work. He was growing, like he had no time to be able to do it. Yeah, and it had to be, it could only be off of, we actually got a second mortgage on our house to be able to come over and buy this duplex. So when I hear you say, you know, it had to cover your HELOC, in this case, it had to cover that second mortgage. But here's the other thing about that first property is that was in 2007 and we were paying like 8% interest. It was crazy. And I remember calling Larry. So that bank that we actually had, and I'm sure he would remember the name, but it actually was one of the banks that went under in the 2008 crisis. And we didn't have a bank anymore. And so they sent us this letter and said, your lender is now going to be whoever it was. And so they renewed our mortgage or took it over from the bank that went bankrupt. And I called Larry and I was like, you're not going to believe this, but our mortgage payment went down by $300 a month. And he was like, why? What do we do? I said, I don't know. But of course, it was just that we were paying a B lender because we were higher risk, but we were actually still paying our mortgage. So we were one of those good mortgages that got lost in the banking industry, or that was kind of keeping the bank alive. So they sold it to another institution. That new institution put us into a new mortgage, and our interest rate went down. And so we were now cash flowing. So, but we didn't buy it based on the fact that in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was, that our bank would go under and our mortgage payment would come down, all this kind of stuff. But all of a sudden now our property had $300 extra a month. These are the things that you just don't see. You know, you buy a property like this one. Again, I'm going to just stop sharing here and share, watch this, Chrome. And again, I'm just going to put us into this property here, okay? So here we are in this asset on Main Street, and we're assuming that both tenants are going to stay. Well, could you, like, and this happens, like this stuff happens, you know, we don't like any of this and you're interrupting us, and both tenants give their notice. You could also have it that those tenants say, you know, we could offer them $5,000 a piece and say, look, let's go have a great Christmas. I'm going to pay you to leave, and away they go, and out they go, and you now have a vacant property that you could immediately do this to, and you would be refinancing this in 6 months if you could have that happen. But if you can't, then you can't. So, you know, like there's all kinds of different factors that you cannot see. I'm not saying speculate to see them, but I'm just saying don't be so closed off to what could be that you're kind of missing some of the points. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I know this was a lot of numbers, and unless you're actually like, but I want you to be a bit of a numbers junkie. You do need to be able to analyze. So let's even, I guess I'm not going to be able to not share my screen here. But I want you to feel, actually, let's just do this one more time quickly here. Because we were showing, okay. So I'm going to go here now. Where's my producer? Where's Larry? Okay. So we're here. I'm going to go back to realtor.ca up here, and I'm going to go into the residential side of things, and I'm going to put in here, where do I know? I'm going to go Barrie, Ontario, okay? Sorry. Barrie, Ontario, because I know Barrie well. Okay. We're going to search this because I want to show you a BRRRR model, a BRRRR property. You know what? And maybe even just for total ease sake, I'll tell you if there's any in Midland, because I know Midland like the back of my hand here. Okay. You might not know Midland, but I know Midland. So just kind of understand that. If you know an area, I know there's a friend, Julie Leduc, who's just outside of Ottawa, and that's right where the new Amazon plant is gone. She's lived there for many years. She knows that area. Like, you don't have to question if it's not on the top 10 city, but there's like all these market fundamentals going on. Just kind of be aware of it. Okay. So I would like to just look for a property. I'm hoping that it won't switch screens on me and me to have to. I don't even know any of these properties. Gosh, guys, I've not been looking for a long time. I feel silly that I'm not looking. Griffin Court. Oh, that was the one. There was somebody that called and asked me if I would buy their house, and I was like, I don't think it's going to work for my numbers. What's this one on Glen Bogey? Darn. Okay, so now I have to stop sharing and go over and share a different screen, because this is what Larry teaches me. He's a pretty good teacher, you know. So this is the property that I've pulled up, okay? So I see that there's a front entrance here, potentially around the back. There's another one. Ooh, looks good on the inside. So I wouldn't need to redo. Doors, lights are good. Flooring is good. Paint is good. Kitchen is good. Appliances look okay. So there's the kitchen, dining room, living room on the main floor. Upstairs. Wow. Okay. Like, this is turnkey. And then we have this. This is obviously downstairs, because I can see up here that this would not be allowed for my BRRRR model. Not allowed for my BRRRR model. And away we go. Does it show a picture of the back of the house? No, it doesn't. Nope. So we don't know if this would be an appropriate BRRRR property or not. Holy, and then the price. Andrew's selling his houses? You learn all kinds of stuff when you come on here, guys. See here, I don't look for the cheapest house in Midland. I'll tell you that right now. No way. I don't even see any good properties. Oh, no, no, this one doesn't work either. Oh yeah, can you see that? No, you can't. Anyways, guys, I don't want to hold you up here, but oh, what's this, Tim? Me again, Cindy. Do you look for a threshold range you'd like for a cash flow or an ROI? So, Cindy, I really like where your mind is coming from. I would tell you that I would really look. Sounds like you're looking to recycle your capital. So I wouldn't get so much on what the cash flow is as more what am I doing with my capital to move on to create my portfolio. And you just kind of have to have a little bit of like, I don't want you to go under in the next 18 months, but I kind of want you to be buying in areas that would have the ability to know that you're just buying because the area is doing well. So Chatham, Kent, London, Barrie, Ottawa. How can I find a way to be able to circulate my money where it's just not going to get stuck, where you're not going to, that you're just in a good growth area, and move on from there. So I don't have a cash flow just kind of comes. Cash flow just kind of it just happens. It just it needs to be there. It absolutely needs to be there. So, but am I saying buying Timmins because there's good cash flow? Am I saying buying New Brunswick because there's good cash flow? I have not researched those places enough, but what I'd be saying is, can I put my money in, renovate and refinance to be able to pull out that money and still maintain? I would say $200 would be my minimum. If there was an infinity house and I could pull all my money out and it only cash flowed at $50 a month, I would take it. You hear me say that? I would take it. If your property only cash flows, if you pull out all of your money, which is capital, renovation funds, home run, woo woo, right? One of my new JV partners should be doing the woo woo run because she's got a phenomenal asset. She's going to have no money in the deal. But what if that property only cash flows at $200? Now this one happens not to be, but it's gonna cash flow well. But what happens if it only cash flows at $200? You have no money left in the deal. So I want you just to make sure that we're evaluating cash flow and ROI for the specific amount of money that you have invested in that deal. Okay? No money left invested, low amount of cash flow. You can supplement it with the other properties that you're buying with your capital that you've recycled out, or you can actually leave a really nice reserve fund to be able to kind of deplete as your cash flow might just be neutral. Okay? So awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And for another Sunday night Q&A with Mandy, same time, same place next Sunday. I look forward to seeing you. Bring your questions. I hope you're kind of getting that I'm a good answer of questions. I'm a pretty no BS kind of girl. So I'll see you same place, same format next week. Bye guys. Have a great week.